Everyone, and welcome into CrushTheStreet.com. I am Kenneth Amaduri, and today we have Gerald Celente back on the line. He's a trend forecaster, publisher of the Trends Journal, author, business consultant, and just a thought leader in the alternative media space. And, I had to have him back here on the show. We seem to be having these escalating events, violence and chaos across the world. Seems like every other day here, and I want to get his thoughts on this. First of all, Gerald, thanks for joining me.
Well, always great being on with you. Thanks for having me.
You know, sir, it's alarming me looking at what's going on globally. It just, no matter where you look, we are seeing problems, whether it's between race relations, governments, citizens revolting and protesting against their governments, the Brexit. You know what? Is this a sign of simply the crumbling financial environment?
That's a big part of it. You know, as I always say, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're looking at now. We also have an atmosphere of violence that was created in part, to a very large part, by the United States in the launch of the war on terror, going back to following 9/11. And, you know, they came out with a report. This is a trend tracking tip, by the way. What they do in the government is they issue information that they don't want the people to see, but are somehow obligated to release it, either just before a holiday or on a Friday afternoon. Friday afternoon, all the major media, in the print media particularly, they're gone by 2 in the afternoon. They're closed down for the weekend. Saturday is the least watched and read newspaper day of the week. So this past week, they released that 28 pages from the 9/11 Commission that they've been holding back. And while it's heavily redacted, it shows proof positive that the Saudis are very involved in this. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but to the best of my recollection, it's about 15 of the 19 or 17 attackers that brought down the World Trade Center and hit the Pentagon were Saudis. Mm. Oh, they were? Why did we invade Afghanistan? Why are we there after now for nearly 16 years?
Wow. Well, go answer that question, please, sir.
What?
Please answer that question.
How come we didn't invade Saudi Arabia? Read the report. All the information's there. Mm-hmm. It shows you how the Saudi intelligence is working with these people.
Right, right. A lot of misdirected anger out there.
So when you're asking me about what's going on globally, in trend forecasting, you keep putting the pieces together. So then they launched the Iraq War based on lies. The fact was that Saddam Hussein never had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. They came out with the Chilcot report out of the UK, out of the news, that Tony Blair, in fact, knew it as well, and dismissed those people that tried to push forward the lies that they were being told and saying this isn't true. Even their intelligence agency said it was being pumped up. So now let's look at the situation globally. Oh, I forgot the Libyan war. You remember that, Kenneth? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obama was going to launch a humanitarian mission, destroyed the most prosperous nation in Africa, and turned it into a hellhole. Yeah. Total destruction of the place, chaos. The people that they armed, those moderate rebels, now they armed them to go into Syria. Over 300,000 dead Syrians, over 1 million dead Iraqis, hundreds of thousands of dead Afghans. What, a Syrian refugee crisis? They have about 4 million people that have left the country. So, let's go back to the global destabilization. We saw what just happened in Turkey. Isn't Turkey behind overthrowing Assad and supporting those moderate rebels in Syria?
Yep.
And isn't Turkey, after Erdogan's party lost their dominance a year ago, June, launches a war against those Kurdish separatists? Mm-hmm. Oh, and then let's go back to France. Go back to our Trends Journal, the winter edition. 2013. Under the France invades Mali. The Mali civil war, which has already turned 300,000 of its citizens into refugees, is but one of the many conflicts in the region. In response, the rebels sent a loud message that could be heard around the world. This is from the Christian Science Monitor, the headline. Mali Islamists threaten to retaliate at the heart of France. Today they threaten payback. And we went on to say, as we go to press, French President Hollande, with support from President Obama, has launched airstrikes into Mali and sent French ground troops to attack rebel forces. What are you doing over in Mali? You can't get over the French colonial trip. Wow. Oh, how about you also went into Niger? Niger? Where's that? Oh, it's the place with all those uranium mines. And who has more nuclear power than any other country? Couldn't be France, could it? Right next to Mali, Niger is, isn't it? Right on the border where they launched these wars. So what you have a situation beginning with George Bush Sr., who launched the first war against Iraq that brought bombs and occupation and drones, slaughtered millions since that time, carried on by Clinton, carried on by Bush Jr., carried on by Obama. Obama's reportedly killed 4,000 people, according to Reprieve, innocent civilians with drone strikes. You think that this sets the stage for aggression fueled by vengeful barbarians?
People are mad.
People are mad. Then put the other part together.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers. Do you know 62 people in your life?
I do. I know where you're going with this.
Right. 62 people have more dough than half the world's population combined. You think people feel that they've been shafted?
Yeah.
Take a look at the United States. 95% of the wealth created since Obama got into office has gone to 1%. That's a fact. Go around the world, look at the facts. They all come out. The proof is there. The standard of living has dramatically declined globally.
Yeah, it sure has. And you know what, Mr. Celente, when it comes to these 1% of 1%, they own assets. And, interestingly enough, we have U.S. equities hitting all-time highs here in the face of such disastrous fundamentals. And I got to ask you, does it shock you seeing the markets the way they are right now?
Yeah, I've gotten over the shock because the market should have collapsed back in 2012. And the only reason they kept going is because of zero interest rates and quantitative easing. And whether it's from China, you know the debt level. China was what? About 300 billion total debt. 500 billion, excuse me, back in 20 years ago. Yeah. Today it's 30 trillion. You look at what happened in Europe with negative interest rates, with zero interest rate policy, and now they're buying corporate bonds as well as government bonds with quantitative easing. Look at Abenomics. Despite 2 rounds of it, now 3 rounds on the line, the country goes in and out of recession, and real wages continue to decline. Well, the markets keep growing. So why is the money flowing into U.S. markets? There's nowhere else to put it. Period, paragraph. You look at what's going on, the stock outflows of the European markets are hitting records again. Look at the problems that the European banks are in, particularly the Italian banks. Look at the value lost, whether it's Deutsche Bank, Societe Generale, Monte dei Paschi, name the bank, record losses, stock losses. So the people are putting money, building the United States markets up because there's no other place to put the money, and this is being looked as a safe haven. And let's go back to what's boosting the markets. Merger and acquisition activity. You just saw a big one the other day with the Japanese company buying the English chip company for $31 billion. Then you look at the stock buyback levels. They're hitting all-time highs again in the United States. It's like 150 billion in the first few months of the year. So that's what's driving the markets, not market fundamentals, not when you look at the PE ratios, not when you look at the total earnings. They pump up, oh, JP Morgan did well, this one did, yeah, but how about all the rest?
Mr. Celente, I want to ask you about gold here. Is it going to be multiple Brexit type events throughout the next year or few years that causes precious metals to have these big run-ups, just like we saw during the actual Brexit this year?
Well, again, when you look at the run-up, it was going on even before Brexit, Kenneth, and it was gaining strength. Brexit gave it an initial boost, and then it's come back down as the Brexit fear has subsided as well. However, what you said is very important because you're looking at other Brexit votes coming out of Italy, out of France, and other countries, Denmark. They're talking about it in Hungary. So if you see more Brexit, particularly in Italy and France, then you're looking at something very significant because the UK has the pound, the British pound. Italy and France are on the euro. They Brexit, sayonara euro, it's over. The Eurozone collapses. And again, what the people, the Brexit is very important because this showed that the people have power. And that's what the people failed to realize. They let a bunch of jerks rule their lives and run and ruin them. They like to call them presidents, prime ministers, senators, congressmen, chancellors, and whatever other stupid name you can make for a slime ball that uses the word politician to cover up how disgusting they really are. Mm-hmm. So what you saw with Brexit was, despite all of the propaganda coming from, whether it was Obama going over there, whether it was Abe from Japan going to the UK, whether it was IMF, you name it, all of Wall Street telling the people the world was going to come to an end if they Brexited. The UK told the EU, F you.
Mr. Celente,
the power is in the people.
Mr. Celente, what will you expect to break the back of the U.S. economy if it continues to receive this artificial support from the rest of the world collapsing, all at once and flooding into the U.S.?
As long as they keep building the equity markets, the Ponzi-nomics will continue to flourish. It's the end of story. It's the beginning and the end of it. Because the equity markets are the variable that the mainstream society uses as a means of success or failure. So as long as that money keeps flowing in, and as long as equity prices keep rising, and it'll keep the Ponzi scheme going. When that stops, and you never know when, that's when it comes down. But even, Kenneth, when it comes down, they're going to come out with a new round of quantitative easing or some other Federal Reserve / government scheme undreamed of.
Yeah.
I mean, TARP, remember that one? Too big to fail. Who made that up? That you don't have too big to fail in capitalism. one after another. Negative interest rates. You're looking now at over $12 trillion worth of bonds are paying negative yields. Yeah. So I ask people, they say, why do you believe gold will go up? I said, well, why don't you buy a negative yield bond? This way, in 20 years, when you cash it in, you're guaranteed to get less than what you bought the bond for. It makes perfect sense to somebody that thinks like that. As for me, I say to them, you think gold will go up in 20 years?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what, Mr. Celente, what should people be preparing for then as some concluding thoughts to this interview?
When all else fails, they take you to war. Look how they use these terrorist strikes to rob people of their rights in France and everywhere else, particularly here in the USSA. You could get like the guy used a truck. What are you going to do? You want gun? You're going to ban guns? How are you going to ban trucks? You're going to ban dirty bombs? No, that's not going to stop it. The only thing that will stop it is stop these wars, stop slaughtering people, stop the hatred from growing. Anybody hear of the word morality? How about doing unto others as you would have them do unto you? So prepare for the worst. As long as you keep hearing these politicians, you heard Trump trumpet out, well, we're going to get a world war. We're going to a declaration of war. Declaration? What are you going to do? You kill more people? When you have no business being in these countries in the first place? And when I love these little boys like Trump, with a pair of cojones the size of mothballs. This is a guy that went to military school because he was so out of his mind. I'm the same age. That used to be the biggest threat you could get. You little SOB, my parents would say, if you keep it up, you're going to military school because you were so out of control. How come he didn't go fight after that? But he'll send your son to fight. He'll send you to fight. You don't think he sent his little boys and girls to fight? You don't think Hillary Clinton, talking all other blood on her hands, would send her grandchildren or a daughter or a son-in-law to go fight? So that's what I'm leaving the people with. If we don't have peace, they're going to take us to war. And they're going to make up some BS story as crappy as it was with Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, and we got to kill all them Taliban because Osama bin Laden is over there. And again, we write about the facts. You listen to George Bush's speech, that murderer, that should be brought up on war crime tribunals, along with the rest of them. You listen to his speech. Listen to his speech the evening of 9/11 and 9 days later when he addressed the nation. Not one fact in it. Only hatred, innuendo, and stupid lines that people that were only could believe if they were so covered with fear that they would listen to lines like that and believe them. So what we're saying is occupy peace. And go to our website, occupypeace.us. This is an action plan for peace. This is an oming or praying for peace. This is to bring peace on earth. Because if we don't stop this, Kenneth, as I said, when all else fails, they take you to war. This is a replay of 1929's. You had the 29 crash, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. You had the Panic of '08, the Great Recession that we the people have never gotten out of. Only the rich have gotten richer. Currency wars, trade wars, and listen to them talk about World War. We gotta stop Russia. We gotta stop them Chinese. You guys haven't won a war since World War II. Yeah, but we're gonna create bigger and better wars. We lost those. We'll destroy the world this time around. It'll be the war that Albert Einstein warned us of. They asked him, how will they fight the Third World War? What weapons will they use? He said, I don't know. He said, but I can guarantee you they'll be using sticks and stones to fight the Fourth World War.
Wow. Mr. Celente, your insight